And here we are back live with our coverage as the cars have actually come out on their reconnaissance laps and ready and waiting on the grid. John just looks back at the sprint race. Obviously great victory for Switzerland, but they have definitely got their work cut out, because not only did they only qualify 16th for this feature race, they've actually lost a couple more places. They've been put to the back of the grid, so Neil Yarney's task of trying to make a double victory here is even tougher.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out the reasons why they were put back to the back of the grid. I've no doubt somebody will help me understand that a bit later on, but he is at the back of the grid, and frankly it made little difference. 16 to 18 is of no consequence whatsoever. What Switzerland and Neil Yarney have got to do is take the long view of what may happen, and no doubt there will be incident throughout this 34-lap race, or 69 minutes, whichever happens to come the sooner. 2 mandatory pit stops. A lot can happen. We just saw what happened in the start of that sprint race, but the standing start usually is a much cleaner event.
Adam Carroll studying the computer at the moment as he will be starting from his first ever feature race pole position. He was on pole position last time out in the sprint race in China, and of course he came home with a victory and a second place there to really rocket Ireland's points tally, because they're now, well, they were joint second coming into the race this weekend. Of course, now that we've had the sprint race, it's changed slightly. They're now sitting in 4th place, but they're only 4 points off the lead, so they're very, very well positioned. Great Britain had an unfortunate time earlier on today, not a great way to celebrate team principal Katie Clement's birthday. Unfortunately, there was a problem with the gearbox on that car, as we saw, and he wasn't able to get a result in at all. But Great Britain does start on the front row. It is Danny Watts back in the car again this weekend. We can see what he can do. But the best ever qualifying effort came from Lebanon yesterday. They're 3rd on the grid, thanks to Daniel Morad, and he's talking to Diana.
Daniel, fantastic result in qualifying, Lebanon's best ever starting position. How are you feeling going into the feature race?
Actually, really, really good. In the sprint race earlier today, we took a lot of positive out of it, and I think the balance of the car is actually quite good. So we'll see how the weather is. I felt a couple spots of rain on my visor on those outlaps there, but I think it's going to be pretty much dry the whole race. It'll be interesting to see, because it might rain halfway through, and either way, it's going to be, I think it's going to be one hell of a race.
How have your practice starts been so far?
A little bit better than Chengdu. It's a bit tricky, because with this launch control, I think you need to kind of release the clutch in a very special way, and that way I've not figured out yet. So I think I'm going to try something new on this practice start here, and should be good.
Fair enough. Now show us what you're holding there. What do you got?
Yeah, well, it's actually Lindsay's birthday today, so happy birthday, Lindsay.
Who is Lindsay?
Lindsay is basically Lindsay Venn. She is she I guess is the brains of our team. She organizes everything.
Fair enough. Well, happy birthday to her.
Thank you.
Thanks, James, and sorry for calling you Diana. I thought we got the 2 reporters, Diana Binks and James Hinchcliffe, on the grid, of course, and we'll catch up with Diana in just a moment. Just a quick apology for language used by drivers sometimes in the interviews. We don't have any say in that, of course, so a quick apology if anyone's offended. John, great effort by Daniel yesterday, and Lebanon with their best ever grid position. Can they convert that into their best ever result? That's the question.
Well, Daniel Morad just simply got to keep his head. He's in a great position directly behind Ireland, and that's going to give him a good run up into turn 1, but he's got to remember that he needs to finish this race to score the points that Lebanon really would love him to do, and not try to do something rash, to dive down, try to split Great Britain and Ireland into turn 1. You know, we can talk about this till the cows come home. Drivers are in briefings that go through a whole rash of different thoughts, discussions, but once they pull the helmet on, the visor down, that traditional red mist often is difficult to control.
Faraz Fawzi posing for photographs. He's had to do that quite a lot this weekend with all the attention on the host nation. Now they've dropped to 2nd place in the points, but they're only 3 behind France, so they're still in a very, very strong position, and they're well up on the grid on this one. So definitely watching to see whether Malaysia can score reasonable points in the feature race and maybe reclaim that points lead that they had. Now Team Switzerland, Team Monaco rather, as one of the joint seat holders there is Hubertus Bolson, and he's down on the grid, and he is talking to Diana.
Obviously, Team Monaco new to the series. This weekend's a bit challenging for you.
Yeah, it is everything new, and even if you're a seasoned team, I guess it's still a challenge to be ahead. And if you started new, everything is new, and you have to break in and the team, the written, everything. Get to know from the team side.
We've lost him. It got very loud suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, people are not going to sort of wait for interviews, as good looking as Diana and Bertus are, that they've got a job to do in firing up a motor, and when you're standing so close to the exhaust systems, that's the end of the interview.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's still pretty busy down there on the grid. There's the Portuguese car. Good performance in that first race by Filipe Albuquerque, and he's done well in terms of qualifying for both races, because he's now 5th on the grid for the feature race, 6th in the overall points, and Filipe Albuquerque, winner last time out in China, of course, showing tremendous pace both there and here at Sepang. So expecting more good things from the Portuguese team. They had a new rookie driver, Armando Parente, driving the car on Friday morning. We saw one or two new rookies here this weekend. We saw John R. Hildebrand Jr. for Team USA, did a very respectable job. He was in the top 10. Stefano Coletti also did a good job for Italy. So nice to see again some new names in A1GP.
Well, part of the challenge of A1GP is to bring along young talent. We don't have literally incumbent drivers on a season contract outside of, say, people like Switzerland and Ireland, but they have also got their rookies, and the idea is to give these young drivers who often struggle to get into top-line single-seater motor racing an opportunity to drive in the rookie session, to show what they're capable of, and maybe find themselves one day to become the incumbent.
So Mario Ormondo of Ferrari, very senior on the engine side, and of course the engine in the new A1GP car, the Ferrari power unit. Really, the drivers particularly, John, enjoying the fact that when they get the power boost down, that they get a lot of extra horsepower, and they've been using that both in qualifying and in the races this weekend.
Yes, I mean, it is a considerable uplift in horsepower over what we enjoyed in the first 3 series. Slightly different here because there's an additional 300 RPM available to all the teams. Ferrari have given us a bit more RPM, 300 available in 1st to 5th gear, 200 available in 6th gear. So the 60 horsepower advantage that you'd ordinarily have with power boost is probably down to 45 horsepower, but it's still significant, and you'll see drivers engaging it once again at the start of this event.
So everybody trying to keep cool where possible. It is still very muggy, still very hot and humid, and the drivers are going to be losing several pounds in terms of fluid loss throughout this race, so they'll be hoping their drinks bottles are working okay. Otherwise they could be in risk of dehydrating later on. Now, it's been great to see so many people turn up here in Sepang for the race today, and let's just take a little look at some of the build-up, if you like, as we've been going towards this feature race. There's a lot of passion here in Malaysia for their own car, and there was a lot of excitement earlier on today all around the Malaysian pit garage. And the Ferrari safety car also has been creating quite a lot of attention. The Brit girls have been out on circuit already, and the drivers have also been presented to the fans. Tremendous amount of support. There's Daniel Morad, of course, after that scintillating effort in qualifying. He's, I think, picked up a few new supporters.
Well, I hope he does better than he managed to explain who Lindsay Vaughan was within the team. He seemed to struggle to be able to tell us who she was. I'm sure he'll not struggle in the feature race.
Well, this was just a little while ago. Felipe Guimarães, I'm not sure whether the Brazilian car actually is going to be on the grid for this one after the damage suffered earlier on. I think we will see both the USA car and Indian cars, though, rebuilt and on track. There's Filipe Albuquerque giving us a wave a little earlier on, and the Brit girls as well. But there's the man that most of the people here want to see. That's Faraz Fauzi. So the Malaysian flag certainly flying proudly. We had the band down there on the start line just before proceedings got underway. There's Danny Watts getting ready to hopefully get a full race distance this time.
Just to prove how popular Faraz Fauzi is in Malaysia, he actually has a police escort to get him in and out of the racetrack and get him into downtown Kuala Lumpur. And also he says, when I get caught speeding, they say, "Oh, Faraz, no problem, continue."
Yeah, he's a big hero out here, and there he is, giving plenty for the fans to cheer about. And he had a good race going in Italy earlier on today, until, of course, the incident with South Africa. So, everybody now just building up towards the start of this feature race. We can see that Ireland and Great Britain on that front row of the grid, and Danny Watts looking for better things in this feature race. Let's get down to him. He's talking to Hinch.
Hey Danny, we know it's a physical track here in Sepang, and I see you've got your hands taped. Why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, just got the jacket on to keep me cool, and my hands are taped up.